Welcome to Revenge Threads. I'm really curious. What country are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. They say time heals all wounds. But they never tell you about the ones that don't bleed. The ones that sit under your skin for years, whispering, reminding, replaying. Especially the ones caused not by a moment, but by years of almost. His name was Ryan. Polite, soft-spoken. The kind of guy who made eye contact with waiters and said thank you too many times. We met through mutual friends in late 2021, the post-lockdown haze when everyone was craving connection, but pretending they weren't. I had just ended an 8-year relationship. I wasn't looking for love. But loneliness plays tricks on you. Ryan wasn't really my type. But he made me feel safe. And after what I'd just come out of, safe was intoxicating. Our first few dates were simple. Walks, coffees, quiet conversations where he asked more questions than he answered. He told me about an ex long distance from the US. Said they met through a pen pal program and saw each other a few times a year. They broke up during COVID, he claimed. Distance was too much, he said with a sad smile. But I'm in a better place now. Something about it didn't sit right. COVID wouldn't last forever. Why give up on someone like that? But I shrugged it off. Everyone had baggage. I had my own. A few months in, things started to shift. He grew distant, detached. Like I was a room he was slowly turning the lights off in, one switch at a time. He said he was struggling with his mental health. Said intimacy was hard for him. Said he needed to go away and do better. It was gentle. It was calculated. It was enough to make me feel sorry for him, while completely forgetting about me. We broke up. Then spoke again. Then broke up again. It was a cycle. He would disappear for weeks, then text something like, "Saw a dog that looked like yours today. Hope you're okay." I would respond, always. Because when someone leaves the door cracked open just a little, you start believing that maybe they'll walk back through it. I met his parents, twice. But never his friends. Never his world. Only the version of it he controlled. In hindsight, it was all so clear. At the time, I thought it was progress. After a year, I finally broke it off. I moved cities, started therapy, deleted his number, but didn't block him. Because deep down, I still cared. And deep down, I think he knew. But what I didn't know was that somewhere across the ocean, his ex never really was. And while he was texting me, "I miss you," she was buying a plane ticket. It started with a text. "Hey, coffee next week?" Simple. Casual. Like we hadn't tangled hearts for 2 years. Like he hadn't ghosted me for months at a time. Like he hadn't made me feel like I was too much every time I asked for clarity. But I said yes. Because I was still stupidly, desperately curious. We began texting more again. He told me he was away for a bit. Said he needed a break, the classic mental reset line. I didn't press. I never pressed. Because every time I had, he pulled away harder. He was a master at setting emotional traps. And I kept stepping into them willingly. That weekend, I met up with 2 of my closest friends. We were at a bar, half a bottle in, when one of them suddenly looked up from her phone. "Wait, is that him?" She turned the screen around. Instagram story. A family table. Some resort. Ryan, his parents, and her. The ex. The American pen pal who supposedly fizzled out during lockdown. Sitting there. In the center. Smiling. Like she belonged. At first, I didn't believe it. I made my friend replay it. Pause. Rewind. Zoom in. There was no mistaking her. Her hair. Her laugh. The way she leaned into his shoulder. And suddenly, everything clicked. The Wednesdays off. The emotional distance. The way he always insisted we not define things. He hadn't been struggling. He had been juggling. I went outside to breathe. I didn't make it. I threw up into a trash bin on the sidewalk like some cliché from a bad movie. Not from the alcohol. From rage. From humiliation. From the sudden realization that I had spent 2 years playing therapist to a man who was already committed to someone else. When I got home, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. Not yet. I stared at the ceiling until dawn and replayed every word he ever said to me. You're the only person who really sees me. I'm just scared of hurting you. You're so special to me, just not in the way you want. Manipulation dressed as vulnerability. Control disguised as honesty. At 7:23 a.m. I messaged her. His ex. His current. Whatever she was. Hi, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. And I sent it all. Screenshots. Call logs. Photos. Receipts. Including the one that really mattered. A message from just a few weeks ago. You know, I still think about you. We always had something rare. It was time-stamped. And dated. And sent after the Instagram vacation had started. I didn't hear back for 3 days. During that time, I cried until I was sick. Avoided my phone. Felt like a shell of a person. Until finally, she replied. Just 4 words. Thank you for telling me. And then, I had no idea. I'm absolutely shattered. She told me she'd been planning to move here. That he'd been talking about marriage. That they had known each other for over a decade. She was hysterical. And I, oddly, wasn't. Because somewhere in the chaos of her tears, I found peace. It wasn't just me. It had never been just me. He was the problem. Not the pain he caused him. But here's the part that still eats at me. They're trying to work it out. She said she wasn't sure if she could forgive him, but she wasn't ready to walk away either. And him? He blocked me on everything. As if I was the one who caused the explosion, not the one who simply lit the match on the fire he'd been stoking for years. But I wasn't done. He thought he could block me and disappear. But I had been humiliated for 2 years. And I wasn't going to vanish quietly. I wanted him to hurt. The way I did. The way she did. I didn't want closure anymore. I wanted revenge. People love to romanticize forgiveness. You'll feel better if you let it go. Don't give him space in your head. It's not worth your energy. Bullshit. Because this wasn't some teenage breakup. This was psychological warfare wrapped in just checking in texts and late-night voicemails that said nothing but meant everything. This was 2 years of emotional limbo. And he walked away from it like he never lit the fire. No apology. No explanation. Just block and vanish. So no, I wasn't going to let it go. I wasn't going to heal with grace. I was going to drag his reputation through every polite social circle he slithered into. And I'd start with the one thing he couldn't control. The truth. My hands were shaking when I opened our old text threads. Not from pain. From adrenaline. I screenshotted everything. Every flirtation. Every late-night message. Every, I miss you, that was sent while she was probably sleeping next to him. And I sent them, one by one, to every mutual friend we had. Even the ones who weren't trying to pick sides. They always pick sides eventually. I was just speeding up the process. Then I did something petty. But necessary. I printed out one of his last texts to me. You'll always be the one that got away. Printed. Framed. And dropped it off at the cafe where we used to go. Right next to the photo booth we took pictures in on our first real date. I didn't need to be subtle. He'd know it was me. And he'd know I meant it. A few days later, one of his friends messaged me. She said, "He's saying you're lying, that you're obsessed, that you hacked his phone." I didn't reply. I just sent her a screenshot of a voicemail. Him, drunk, slurring my name like it was a question he forgot the answer to. I don't know. I miss you, I think, but I'm not supposed to. And at the end he whispered, "Don't tell anyone I called." Too late, sweetheart. You'd think I'd feel guilty. But instead, I slept. For the first time in weeks. Like a goddamn baby. The next morning my phone buzzed. It was her. The ex. the girlfriend, the fiancée-to-be. He told me you're fabricating everything. Typical. But now his story keeps changing. There was the beginning of the unraveling. I didn't respond for a while, because I didn't need to. His lies were catching up to him faster than I ever could have planned. Every thread he'd pulled, every half-truth he told to keep one of us on hold, was finally snapping back like a whip. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her, and how he had convinced two women, in two cities, that they were each the only one. He didn't deserve silence. He didn't deserve privacy. He deserved to drown in the mess he made. And I wasn't done. Because I knew his weak spot. The thing he valued more than either of us. His job. And as luck would have it, I knew exactly who ran HR. You ever meet someone who says, "My job is super professional, reputation really matters here"? Yeah, that was Ryan. He worked in PR and communications for a mid-sized company in the city. Spoke a lot about branding, trust, relationship-driven messaging. Irony must have been his side hustle. He had this annoying little motto he used whenever we argued. "I just wish you'd give me the benefit of the doubt." As if doubt was some unfair punishment, instead of the natural consequence of his sketchy behavior. So I figured, why not help his employer understand who they've hired to shape their public image? I didn't go nuclear. Not right away. First, I cleaned everything up. Screenshots with timestamps. Voicemails with context. A timeline of our interactions, especially the parts that overlapped with his exclusive relationship. I included one message he sent me after a corporate retreat. "Just got back to the hotel. Thought about you the whole flight." That same weekend, his girlfriend had posted a selfie of them at the beach. Caption, "Weekend reset with my whole heart." I highlighted that one in red. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't going to pretend he harassed me. That wasn't the story. The story was, this man represents your brand. And this man is currently telling people I'm mentally unstable, while simultaneously sending me explicit messages, all while involved in an international relationship that he's trying to salvage. It wasn't illegal, but it was ugly. And in PR, ugly gets you fired faster than theft. I found the corporate HR email on LinkedIn. Typed out my message with the kind of clarity only betrayal can sharpen. I'm not interested in drama, but as someone who's been misrepresented, manipulated, and lied about, and who has proof that one of your employees is acting in a way that directly contradicts your company's core values, I thought you might want to be aware of the situation. I attached it all. No threats. No demands. Just receipts. Then I hit send. And waited. 3 days later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. And when I played it, it was Ryan. "I don't know what the hell you're trying to do, but this is harassment. You're going to ruin everything. I have meetings with investors next week. What are you thinking?" So he did get the email. Next came the text. From a new number, probably a burner phone. "Please stop. I'll explain everything. We can talk." No sorry. No, I messed up. Just desperation. It felt delicious. Later that evening, one of his co-workers, a woman I'd met once at a holiday party, met me. She said, "I don't know what happened, but whatever it is, thank you. He's been terrorizing women here for years, saying the right things in meetings but acting like a creep behind closed doors." And just like that, his carefully curated office image began to crack. They didn't fire him. Not right away. But they pulled him from all client-facing responsibilities. Stripped his role down to admin-level busy work. Gutted his team. The girlfriend stopped posting. His friends stopped defending. And for the first time in years, he was completely publicly alone. I didn't celebrate. Not out loud. But that night I bought a bottle of wine, sat on my balcony, and watched the city lights knowing that someone like him, for once, didn't get away with it. But revenge isn't just about the sting. It's about the echo. And this story wasn't over yet. Because 2 weeks later, he tried to crawl back. I hadn't heard from him in nearly 2 weeks. No burner texts. No rage voicemails. No mutual friends trying to mediate. Silence. And for a while it was bliss. Until one Thursday night my email pinged. A name I knew far too well appeared in my inbox. Subject: just one conversation. No greeting. No apology. Just a pathetic paragraph. I've been thinking a lot about how things ended, about how much you meant to me. I know I made mistakes, but I never meant to hurt you. Can we meet? Just once. Please. I stared at it, not in shock, but in awe. How a man could lie so well so consistently, and still act like he was the one owed closure. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. It was too precious. Proof that everything I'd done was justified. Proof that even now, after the truth was exposed, his job reduced to dust, his girlfriend likely gone, he still thought he had power. Still thought I might fold. A few days later, a mutual friend messaged me. Said Ryan had been off the grid. That he'd been telling people I hacked him. That I ruined his life because I was obsessed. The usual playbook. It was laughable at this point. But what caught my attention was this. He's telling people he's suing you for defamation. Cute. I called my lawyer friend. Ran him through the basics. He laughed for 5 straight minutes. You've got receipts? Of course. Then he's got nothing. And if he tries, we counter. You're not just safe, you're untouchable. Exactly what I needed to hear. But I still wasn't done. Not yet. Because Ryan had one final life raft. His version of the story. The poor me version. The she's bitter version. And I wasn't going to let him keep it. So I wrote my own. Not a tell-all. Not revenge porn. Just the truth. In a blog post. Under a pseudonym. Masked details changed names, but the essence remained. It was titled, The Emotional Gymnastics of Loving a Liar. And it spread. Fast. Shared on Reddit. Quoted in private support groups. DMs from women thanking me for putting into words what they'd lived through. Even she, the ex he ran back to, reached out. It took me months to undo everything he planted in my head. You saved me more than you know. That was the moment I let go of anger. Not because he deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. I didn't get revenge by hurting him. I got revenge by surviving him, and then turning his chaos into clarity, for everyone he tried to manipulate next. But this story's not just about him anymore. It's about every woman who stayed too long, who excused too much, who waited for someone to grow into a better version of themselves, only to be gutted by the same lies. If that's you, let this be your wake-up call. You don't need closure. You need distance. And sometimes, you need a little bit of beautifully calculated revenge. The last time I saw Ryan was through a screen. A LinkedIn update. His profile picture was new. Clean-shaven. Smiling like the world hadn't caught up to him yet. But the title beneath his name? Changed. Freelance consultant. Which is corporate speak for, no one will hire me permanently anymore. I didn't click. Didn't zoom in. Didn't check his connections. Because the truth is, he was irrelevant now. You see, people think revenge is fire. Loud, explosive, raging. But the best revenge is quiet. It's him realizing no one believes his side anymore. That the whisper networks have worked. That people smile in meetings and talk behind his back in elevators. It's the isolation, the emptiness, the slow unraveling of a man who once thought he could juggle 2 hearts and still keep his image intact. As for me, I didn't rise like a phoenix. No grand transformation montage. Just peace. I changed cities. Started a new job. Took up swimming, the kind where you float on your back and let the world blur out. And sometimes when I'm drifting on the surface, I think about how close I came to letting him define me. To being the girl who waited. to being the almost. But I'm not. I'm the girl who ended it, who exposed the rot beneath the charm, who made sure the next version of me would never be treated like an option. He once told me, "You're too sensitive." I hope now he understands. I was never too anything. I was just the wrong woman to betray, and the right one to ruin him. Look, she stayed gone. The ex. The real girlfriend. The one he swore was long gone, who somehow stuck around longer than anyone thought. Last I heard, she moved home, blocked him on everything, started over. Good for her. We never spoke again. Didn't need to. We were soldiers from the same war. She just didn't have time to reload. But I did. If you're reading this and your gut says something is wrong, you're right. If he says, "You're overthinking," you're not. And if you think he'll change, he won't. But you can. No. I write for me. For the woman I used to be. For the ones still tangled in the gray areas of almosts and emotional crumbs. This isn't a cautionary tale. This is a map out. Take the exit. Burn the bridge. Then walk like hell never existed on the other side.